Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards here for Heffy Doodle today, and I am creating this fun slimline jungle birthday scene card with you. So I have used a bunch of different stamp sets here. So I have the main squeeze stamp set and coordinating die. I have the 2x2 zoo animals stamp set and coordinating dies. I have the Wild at Heart sentiment stamp set. I'm not sure which sentiment I'm going to be using yet, but I've pulled them out because I'm sure that I'll use one of them. I am using the Simply the Best stamp set and coordinating dies. And I have the 2x2 Safari Animals stamp set and coordinating dies. I'm going to be using the giraffe and the little toucan from that one. I then have the Popping By stamp set. I'm going to be using the birthday cake from that. I have the Hootiful stamp set. I'm going to be using the little log from that one. I also have the freshly cut grass die set. I have the Stitched Slimline Trios die set. I'm going to be using the largest and the middle-sized one from that. I pulled out the Amazonian leaves die. I didn't end up using those. And I also have the Unbelievable stencil, which I love and I will be using. So off camera, I have gone ahead, coloured and die cut out all of my little images here. So you can see what I'm using. I have the little lion, I have my little elephant, my giraffe, one of my little chimpanzees, the toucan, the snake. I have the log and the birthday cake. So with the birthday cake, I only wanted the top tier of the cake, so I just masked off the bottom and stamped out the top. So the first thing that I've done is create a card base, which I've cut using the largest of those Stitched Slimline Trio dies from some Bristol Smooth cardstock because I'm going to be doing some ink blending on it. So I have Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink here, and I'm just going pretty haphazardly all over the background here with that ink. I'm going to be doing some other ink blending on top of this. So I'm just kind of creating a little bit of a background to begin with. I then pull out Mowed Lawn and I'm going to go around the edges of it just to darken it up a little bit. I'm not really sure that in the end you're going to notice this, but I just added it because why not? And I like ink blending. Who doesn't? It's a lot of fun. It kind of makes a bit of a mess, but it's all good. So just going around and around and around the edge. Again, I'm not too worried if it's a little bit splotchy. You're not going to see a huge amount of this, and I'm going to be doing some more ink blending over the top. So I just wanted to kind of get some color down and create a base. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to pull out my Unbelievable stencil. I love this stencil. I think it's absolutely amazing. I use it all the time. I'm not going to be creating a whole background with it today though. I just want to ink in a few little leaves here and there. So I pulled out a tiny little ink blending brush here and some Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink. And I'm trying to be fairly careful about where I put my ink. I don't always manage to succeed, and sometimes I go over other parts of other leaves that I don't really want. But it's no biggie. Most of it will get covered up by images, and you'll see what I mean here as we move around. You'll see little splotches of ink where it's probably not supposed to be, but it's okay. So I'm just moving my stencil around, picking a couple of leaves that I can ink on there and kind of create this jungly kind of look. I wanted it to look like the animals had found a little clearing in the jungle where they were going to have their little birthday party, but I wanted some leaves poking in around them to kind of set the scene. So that was the plan, that was the concept behind it, and I think it pretty much turned out how I wanted. I am literally going all the way around the edge with the stencil and this ink to create a fun background. So I sped through the rest of that ink blending and I'm now up to my very last leaf here in the corner. I'm going to lift up that stencil and you can see what I've done here. I decided just to add one more in there to kind of fill in that space. And that is it. So you can see that I have some little boo-boos where I've gone over other leaves that I wasn't supposed to, but I'm not too worried. As I say, most of that's going to be covered up. I've now pulled out that freshly cut grass die. I'm using the kind of straightest die that set has, if that makes sense, with this lovely grass. I have made it slimline simply by repeating the cut. So I've just kind of lined up the cutting edge to the piece that I'd already cut and extended it a little bit further. I hope that makes sense. And I'm ink blending it with the same Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide inks that I used earlier for my background piece. And I'm just kind of going, like I say, fairly rough and ready with that. I created a frame by using the 2 dies from the Stitch Slimline Trio dies, the largest and the middle-sized one. Just die cut them together to create this stitched frame. And I'm going to place my grass in behind my frame here using some liquid glue. Now my grass is a little bit longer than my frame. That's okay. I can trim it down with some scissors here in a second. I just wanted to get it placed nicely first of all, so that I didn't create it too short. That's the main thing. So I'm trimming off those ends, and that is kind of like going to be the front part of my card. I'm then going to pull out my background and place everything together so I can get an idea of how it looks. And I'm going to start popping my critters down on top so that I can figure out placement. So I want my birthday cake to be sitting on my log, kind of central in my picture here. And then I'm going to have my animals surrounding it on either side. Some will be tucked in behind the grass, some will be in front of the grass, and then some are going to be swinging from some vines, which I'm going to attach up here at the top. So I have my vines that are going to hang down on either side. I'm going to have my monkey swinging from one, my chimpanzee I should say. My elephant's going to be sitting in the grass, as is my snake. I'm going to have another vine on the other side, which is going to have my little toucan sitting on top of. And then I was planning initially to have my sentiment in the center there, but I decided that there wasn't quite enough room and I wanted to put it down below instead. I kind of wish I'd thought about that a little bit more, because you'll see I take a bit of a risky method with attaching my sentiment down, but it worked out in the end, which is all that matters. So I'm going to go ahead and start by attaching my little vines to the frame here so that they will be sitting kind of in front rather than at the back. And once I have those popped down, I can then attach my little chimpanzee, who is going to be swinging in from one of the vines. He's hoping to grab hold of some of that lovely birthday cake. So to make sure that he kind of sits on my vine nicely, I'm just using my scissors to trim around his tail ever so slightly, just so that it can hook over the vine and attach down and make sure that he's sitting flat on my card. So I'm going to go ahead and stick him down with some liquid glue and just make sure that he's popped in place. So I'm just putting a little bit of liquid glue on his tail where he's going to attach to that vine, and then I can stick him down properly when I go ahead and attach my kind of front piece to my back piece, if that makes sense. Next up, I have my log here, which came from the Hooterful stamp set, and that's where my birthday cake is going to be sitting on. I want to pop this down pretty centrally, so I'm using my grid mat to help me line it up into the center of my card, and then I can pop my cake on top. As I said earlier, the cake came from the Popping By stamp set, and I just masked off the bottom tier of the cake and I just stamped out the top part. I didn't want my cake to be too big because I thought it would take up too much room and look a little bit out of proportion. So I just used the top tier for my card here. Now I'm going to pop it down. I'm not sticking it down yet, but I'm just going to pop it down to decide where to place my other animals. So I have my giraffe here. He is the birthday boy. He's getting ready to blow out the candle on the cake. I was debating whether to put him in front or behind that grassy piece. In the end, I decided that he kind of worked better, kind of sat behind the grassy panel and looked like he was kind of leaning forward. My little lion is going to be sitting at the back there as well and kind of tucked in behind that vine. And then my toucan is going to be sitting in the foreground on top of the vine at the top. So just kind of, as I say, just figuring out placement. I haven't glued anything down yet. Once I'm happy with the placement, I will go ahead and grab my glue and attach these critters down to the base of my card. So tucking that little giraffe in there behind the grass, and then the same with the lion. So because I'm using liquid glue, I'm just making sure that those images are mashed down nicely onto the card base. I don't want any little pieces popping up and coming unstuck. So I'm just using my finger to press it down. And now I'm going to attach that lion down and just make sure that he's tucked in behind that vine there. because obviously I haven't stuck that vine down yet and I don't want it to get caught behind him. Next up, I'm going to attach my toucan quite carefully to that little leaf there of the vine so that he's sitting up there. And then I'm going to work on the left-hand side of my card. So again, I've got my little elephant. He's going to be tucked in behind that grass, and I'm going to glue him in place with liquid glue. And then I have my little snake who's going to be sitting in front of the grass, but on the ground, obviously, because he's quite small in comparison to some of those other big animals. So that's why I wanted to sit him at the front, because I felt like he might get a little bit lost if he was tucked in behind the grass. So he's kind of slithered up to see what's going on and to join in the party. And once I'm happy with the placement of those things, I'm going to use some foam tape on the back of my card here. I've got my Heffy Doodle foam tape roll here, and I've just placed bits of foam tape all the way around the edge of my frame, over my grass pieces, and all over my little critters that I've got at the back here. I don't know about you, but I always struggle with removing the backing of foam tape. I don't know why. It's really not that difficult, but I always seem to struggle. But in the end, I managed to remove all the foam tape backing paper, and I can go ahead and pop my frame down onto my card base. It's taking me a while for this piece, isn't it? I do get there in the end. Honestly, I don't know why it's so hard. I really don't. I should probably pull out my little, I've got a little kind of pokey tool type thing that helps me, and I just didn't bring it out. I don't know why. So now I'm popping my frame down onto my card base. I'm trying to make sure that I keep it nice and centered. The frame is quite fine, so I don't want to distort it by pulling it or making it go any kind of wonky way. I want to keep it nice and straight. So once I'm happy that it's all attached down nicely, I am pretty much done, but then I forgot my sentiment, didn't I? So here comes the risky part. So initially, as I said, I wanted to put a sentiment kind of in the center, but I felt like it wasn't going to fit anyway. So I went with the Go Wild, It's Your Birthday sentiment, and dangerously stamped it on to the front of my card. I did that in 2 parts. So I put the Go Wild on the left-hand side and the It's Your Birthday on the right-hand side. It wouldn't all fit in one spot, so I figured that was the best way to do it. And now I'm just attaching my whole card front down onto a card base using some liquid glue. I definitely recommend stamping a sentiment out first, but other than that, I'm really happy with how this card turned out. I think it's so fun, and it's definitely going to bring a smile to somebody's face. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the Heffy Doodle channel. We would love to see you come back again, and feel free to catch up on some other Heffy Doodle videos while you're here. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you all again soon. Take care. Bye.